What you're about to hear is not a novel story.
These are real encounters people shared, moments when they came face to face with something that was alive, aware, watching them, but absolutely not human.
If you feel someone is behind you right now, don't look. Just listen.
Because the things in this story are drawn to attention, and looking directly at them is the last thing you want to do.
Some people who experienced these encounters said it follows them even years later. So if you hear a sound while listening, don't pause the video.
Pausing invites it. Now let me take you into the kind of darkness most people never come back from.
It started with a boy named Lucas. He was 11 when he saw it for the first time. His bedroom window faced the backyard, which stretched into a forest.
Every night he heard small sounds, like branches cracking or leaves moving. But that wasn't strange, animals lived back there.
One night around 2:57 a.m.,
he woke up because someone whispered his name.
Not loudly,
almost like it was right beside his ear. He sat up, heart pounding, and looked around his room.
No one was there.
He turned toward the window. At first, he thought it was his own reflection in the glass.
But no, the shape in the window wasn't him. It was taller, too tall. The head was tilted at an impossible angle, like it was studying him.
Lucas froze.
The figure didn't move.
But its reflection wasn't a reflection.
It didn't match his movements.
It stared at him with deep, hollow pits where eyes should be. And then it breathed.
The window fogged. That's when Lucas realized the thing wasn't outside. It was inside the room, standing right in front of the glass as if the glass wasn't there. He tried to scream, but only a whisper came out. The creature lifted one long, thin finger and tapped the window from the inside. A heavy, slow tap, then another, then another. Lucas grabbed his blanket, covered his head, and waited.
Hours later, his mother found him curled on the floor, shaking.
He refused to sleep in that room again. But the story didn't end there.
Because 1 week later, his mother heard tapping on her own window at 3:04 a.m. Another encounter happened to a woman named Claire. She worked the night shift at a hospital.
The building was always quiet at M. The halls dim, the air thick. That night, she was walking down the long hallway near the storage rooms when she heard footsteps behind her. Slow, dragging. She thought it was another nurse, but when she looked back, the hall was empty. She kept walking, but the footsteps continued, this time faster. Claire turned around sharply, but again, no one.
She decided to check the storage room, thinking maybe someone was messing around.
She opened the door and stepped inside.
The room was dark except for a faint light flickering above.
The shelves were filled with blankets and equipment. Nothing strange.
She turned to leave, but then she heard breathing right behind her.
Heavy, wet. She spun around and screamed.
A figure was standing inches from her face.
Tall, pale,
skin stretched to tight. Its mouth was open, but not moving. Yet the breathing still came from it. Its eyes were black, shiny, empty, endless. Claire stumbled back, knocking over a shelf.
The creature leaned forward, its neck bending far too easily, as if it had no bones.
Then it whispered one word, "Stay."
Claire ran out of the room without looking back, and when security checked minutes later, nothing was there. But the shelf she knocked over was perfectly upright again.
As if someone or something had gently put it back.
There was also a man named Jordan who had an encounter on a lonely highway. He was driving home late, around 3:09 a.m., when he saw something in the middle of the road.
It looked like a person lying on the ground. He slowed down and rolled down his window a little. "Are you okay?"
he shouted. The figure didn't move. Jordan stepped out of his car and walked closer. When he got a few feet away, he realized the figure's limbs were wrong.
Too long.
The arms bent backward, like they had been folded the wrong way. But the worst part was the head. It was twisted upside down, staring at him with wide eyes, not human eyes.
They were glowing faint yellow, like an animal. Suddenly, the creature snapped into motion, crawling toward him at an impossible speed, its limbs cracking loudly with each movement. Jordan sprinted back to his car and slammed the door.
The creature slammed its body against the window so hard the glass shook. It pressed its upside-down face against the glass, lips pulled back, revealing sharp, needle-like teeth. Jordan floored the gas, speeding away. In his rearview mirror, he saw it standing up, watching him drive away on backward legs. The dashcam footage he shared later was removed from every site within hours, and no one ever explained why. But the scariest encounters are the ones that happen when you're not alone, when you're surrounded by people and still the thing chooses you.
A group of hikers went camping deep in the mountains.
There were 4 of them.
They set up a campfire and stayed awake telling jokes. Around a M, The fire burned low. That's when they noticed the forest had gone silent.
No insects.
No wind.
Nothing. One of the hikers, Ryan, shined his flashlight toward the trees. Something stood between the trunks, tall, thin, perfectly still.
They thought it was a tree at first until it stepped out into the light.
It had no face, just smooth skin where eyes, nose, and mouth should be.
But they felt it watching them anyway. Ryan dropped the flashlight.
And in the brief darkness before it hit the ground, something spoke from the creature's direction in a perfect imitation of Ryan's voice. Come here. Ryan froze. The others grabbed him and started running.
They didn't stop until sunrise. When they returned to the campsite, everything was gone.
Every bag, every tent, every trace they left behind gone, except the flashlight.
It was placed upright in the center of the clearing, pointing directly toward the forest. There are countless stories, but one encounter is different, because it didn't just involve one person.
It involved a whole town. A small rural area where everyone knew each other started reporting strange sightings in the fields, tall figures walking at night, shadows longer than their bodies, eyes glowing from trees. Animals disappeared. Lights flickered in every house exactly at 3:15 a.m. each night.
People began sleeping with weapons. Then one night, the entire town heard screams coming from the woods.
Not human screams.
Something was speaking in a deep, layered voice, like multiple creatures speaking at once.
The sound echoed through the houses. When the sun rose, every person in the town found a small symbol carved into their front door, a circle with a line through it.
No one knows who made them,
or why. Most families left within a week. To this day, no one stays in that town past sunset. These encounters have one thing in common. These beings act like they're studying us, watching us,
learning from us.
They mimic voices, movements, even memories.
They know what scares us, and they use it.
People who see them often say the same thing. It didn't feel like a monster. It felt like something pretending to be human and failing.
Something trying to understand us but getting every detail slightly wrong.
And the scariest part, they only appear when someone is alone, exhausted, or vulnerable. When your guard is down.
When your mind is quiet.
When your heartbeat is the only thing you can hear. That's when they show themselves. There's one last encounter.
A college student named Mia lived alone in a small apartment. Nothing strange had ever happened to her until one night she woke up to the sound of her own voice calling her name.
Not someone else's voice.
Her own. The exact tone, the exact pitch. She sat up slowly, shaking. The voice came again, from her living room.
Mia, come here. She grabbed her phone and turned on the flashlight.
When she stepped into the hallway, something moved in the corner of her eye. She looked into the living room and froze.
Something stood in the middle of the room. It had her shape, her height, her hair. It was her, but its head hung low, and its arms were too long.
Its fingers touched the floor.
Slowly, it lifted its head. But where her eyes should be, there were only empty holes.
Dark, endless holes.
The creature tilted its head and smiled with her mouth.
I've been watching you, it said in her voice.
I know everything about you.
Mia turned and ran, not stopping to grab anything. She ran outside barefoot, called the police, and refused to go back inside alone.
But when officers entered the apartment, it was empty.
No creature, no signs of a break-in.
Nothing.
Except one thing.
On her mirror, written in something dark, were the words, "You look better when I wear you."
Stories like these raise one terrifying question. What if the creatures we fear aren't supernatural at all?
What if they're real, living beings that exist just beyond our understanding?
What if they walk among us, watching, learning, waiting for the right moment to appear? And what if they choose M because that's when the world is quiet enough for them to move without being noticed? So tonight, when you try to sleep, pay attention to the small things.
A whisper, a shadow, a reflection that doesn't match your movement.
And if you ever hear your name spoken in your own voice, don't answer it.
Don't look, just run.
Because once it finds you, it never stops trying to become you.